How many times you find yourself in very similar situations repeating the same mistake over and over, and the consequences are even more expensive every single time you make the same mistake? And it's very painful to look backward and to realize that I have been through similar situations. I could have already learned that lesson. Why is that happening to me? Why is that always that I have to go through the same problem? And it's painful because the consequences are even higher in their price every single time we make them. Because if you have 2 employers and you're working with 4 or 5 figures, then the risks are high, are painful. But if you have more employers, you have a family, you have a business, then the responsibility is much higher on your shoulders. That's why repeating the same mistake again and again is something that we have to stop. So if you find yourself that you repeat the same mistake again and again, I'm going to make a promise that if you pay attention and you're going to be very focused during this video, after this video, you're going to have a complete frame that you will use every single time you're going to make a serious decision. And if you use this frame, the percentage of those mistakes which you or I or everyone repeats is going to be lower. Now, I didn't say that you're not going to repeat any mistake again. Why? Because the more you do, because the more you want to accomplish, the more you do. The more you do, the more mistakes you make. And the more mistakes you make, the percentage of those mistakes that you repeat is also higher. But there is one thing, which there are going to be multiple things, but the first one you want to not even to admit or to realize, but to see, because you go through that every single time, is that before every action, because a mistake is an action, whether a victory or a mistake or an error, that's an action. Before every action, there was a decision. There was a decision. Whether you are aware of it or not. Maybe it might be conscious or unconscious, it might be rushed or fast, but there is always a decision. And more often we make that decision, the more keen we are to think that we are already masters of those in that area. For example, if you cross the street already thousands or hundreds of thousands of times, you can also talk on your phone, you can talk to your body, and you know how to cross the street because you see the traffic light, or it's just easy for you to manage that, right? Because you've done it many times. So you allow yourself to make the decision unconsciously, or we can put it as a mastery level, because that's what's mastery, when you are able to do something that before needed you're conscious, but now you can do it unconsciously because it doesn't require that conscious effort to make it. So the first thing, before we dive into the frame which we're going to use, and it's a little bit more complicated, but if you pay attention and you really want to stop repeating the same mistake, I assure you, you are going to accomplish that. We're going to get there. But the first thing you want to understand that there is a decision. That's the number one thing. So when something happens and you think that like, that's just happening to me, or I am just made this way, that I every single time find myself in the same decision, or somebody influences me, so that's why. Even if somebody influenced you or a factor was always there to influence you, was your decision to allow yourself to be influenced or not. So there is always a decision. Now, what you want to understand is that some of the decisions are made in a very rushed manner, and some of them are very fast. And the problem is that we are rushed to make some decisions, but what we think is that we are just fast at doing them. So that's why I can allow myself to make this fast decision, but you are nothing more than just rushed to make it. Now, how does that happen? When we have to make 100 decisions a day, you might not be even aware of this big number, but you make a ton of decisions every single day. And most of them are unconscious. When you make the same mistake, the first thing you want to understand that you have made a decision in a rushed way, but you thought that you are fast at doing it. Now, what does that lead us? It leads us to the first thing you want to have it right there behind your eyes, between your ears, under your skull, that everything you do before that, there was a decision. So probably you have an unconscious decision, which it's not ready for the fast area. It's in a rushed area. But you think, you assume that you are already so good at it, and you continue to repeat the same decision in a rushed way, thinking that you are just fast at doing it. What it means that, for example, if you are in a building business phase, you think that you have already figured it out, and you start thinking about growing, and you try to grow your business. But you are into the building phase, not in the growing. That's why when you have one little thing, which here it is not clear yet, you find yourself into that growing phase, and the same mistake repeats again and again. It means that one element, one decision is in every situation where you find yourself that you go through the same mistake again and again, over and over. And as I say, the consequences might be even higher, that there is one thing which you assume that you know it. You assume that it was made on the truth. So here comes the second phase. The first one is to understand that you have always a decision made before every action, like it or not. The second one, decisions are fast and there are rush decisions. We have to consciously move the decisions which we have already made multiple times, we move them into the fast area. So then we can allow ourselves to repeat that decision as fast as possible, as fast as we want. The problem is that we haven't made that decision so often or so often enough, and we start to think that we are already fast at making it, but we are just rushed at making that decision. This makes sense to you? For example, you just got your driver license and you made a couple of corners, so you already assume that you are good at doing it. So if you want to go in a corner and you want to do it in a fast way, you are simply rushed. But because you don't have the truth, and we're going now in the third phase, we're going to talk about truth and true. The true is the perception, the truth is the extremes. They're fixed. The true is variable, it's a perception. But we're getting there. Once we clarify these two steps, and then we'll move to the third one. So once you assume that you are ready for the fast, you have already made a very essential mistake for which you might pay in years, for which maybe your partners, your business partners, or maybe your family are going to pay for that mistake, because you have an assumption that you can already be fast at making that decision. So when you find yourself repeating or going through the same situation where you make the same mistake, ask yourself, before this action, what was the information that I have considered as truth, according to which I allowed myself to be fast at making it? Let's pick up another example. For example, you want to record a video just like me. So if you think that you can be very fast at explaining something very complicated, you might start diving into the topic without introduction, without inviting who's listening to you, because you think you are already so good at diving right into the topic, but you're not so good. You're going to lose yourself. That happened to me very often. For that reason, I realized that I assume that I'm good at leading those who listen to me into the topic that I'm going to explain. But the truth was that I wasn't. For that reason, I figured out that every single time I start to talk to my client or to record a video, I assume that I've done already such a great job at introducing, or I've done such a great job at landing, where I have already warmed up my client, but then we realize that every client runs away. A couple of days ago, I was talking to someone that told me that in the last 40 calls, he hadn't landed one. So there is one mistake, one assumption at which he thinks that he's already can allow himself to be fast. That's not the truth. You haven't mastered it. So I think that's already clear. Accept the fact that you've made a decision to find out which of those decisions you have made them unconsciously. Find it, go back to it, and start figure out which part of the truth that allowed me to make the decision is not the truth. And we go now in the third phase of this video. Once you have realized that you always make a decision, once you have realized that there are fast and there are rash decisions, let's figure out when we are more tempted to make rash decisions and when we are more tempted to make fast decisions. Now, if you become very fast at making decisions, you are great. You're on the path of mastery. I know how to play piano. I don't think which key I have to push because it's a mastery. I'm not an exceptional player, but I know those couple of songs that I know to play, maybe more than a couple, I do them automatically. And I can allow myself to play faster because I don't need to think about every little decision. So that's why most of the times when we go through the same mistake again and again, I know it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's a little bit of arrogance behind it. Too many assumptions. We assume that we're already good. We already assume that we're experts. We already assume that we are masters. And this assumption leads to straight line failure because we are not ready yet to scale to that level. We might be ready here, but we have to do the work which are going to support that readiness that we have in our mind. But if you don't have experience that is going to back up that decision, that readiness, that's foolishness, that's arrogance to think that I can already be confident at doing something just because you've done it a couple of times. So that's the difference between being rushed and fast. Now, what is the even deeper level behind this fast and rushed? So let's recapitulate a little bit. So we have here the mistake. That's because it was a decision before that, and the decision was or rushed or fast. So one of these lead to the same mistakes? No, absolutely not. The rush decisions are leading to the same mistakes. The fast is what we think that we can allow ourselves to do fast. But the more you do the reflection, which you're going to learn today, the more you're going to discover that some from the fast list needs to go back here, needs to be worked a little bit, you have to take off some assumptions, so then you can put it to the fast when the right time comes in. And this way you avoid repeating the same mistakes and going through the same situations, attending the same class over and over. They're saying that truth is somewhere in the middle because there's one side affirming something, there's the other side which is the counter argument, and they're fighting, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Well, I want to tell you that that's not often the case. It's opposite. The truth, so we're going to talk a little bit now about truth and true, and then we're going to connect this concept to the concepts that we just discussed a couple of minutes ago. So now focus on this without trying to connect it to the first part. Afterwards, we're going to connect them together, which is going to happen while we're going to learn this phase. So the truth is usually very visible. It's right in front of our nose. It's right there, and after we go through the same mistake, we say, how could I repeat it again? How could I make that dumb mistake again? The answer, the truth was just in front of me. How could I not just see it? Because truth, most of the times, it's at the surface. Now, the other side of the truth, which is also truth, is at the bottom, and we have to dig a little bit deeper to find it. Sometimes truth is so covered and hidden under what we think is true, which is right here in the middle, is the perception, is variable. We have so many of them, of what we think that is true, that it covers that part of the truth which is hidden, and we have to discover it. We have to dig it and to find it and to let it out, which sometimes is very, very uncomfortable. So very often, it's right at the surface. Now, why are we talking about this? Because what is true to us is variable. It is a perception. It's very perceptual. My writing. It's variable. It's a perception. It can change. The truth doesn't really change. They are facts. For example, it's snowing. Okay, so it's snowing. It's visible, it's tangible. You can touch it, so you can see that it's snow out there. Now we can see outside it's cold. And maybe, depends, it might be true to you, but it is not the truth. Where they sometimes are the same, sometimes they are not. So it depends. Truth is also that the sun is up there in the sky. Okay, that's truth. Can you touch it? Can you prove it? Yes, it's a very simple question, right? You can prove it, like, look at it, it's right there. It's still, you say, it's very hot. Well, it might be hot for you if you're wearing 3 pants, but if you're on the beach and then it's June or in other parts of the world in another month, you might feel very well and say, like, it's not warm, it's not so hot, it's good weather. Truth is a fact. What is true, it might be true to yourself. That's why when you have some assumptions in your head, in your mind, a belief that was made on what was true and not on the truth, most of the times you're going to find yourself in the same situation or similar situations making the same mistake. Because you have an assumption of what is true for you, but it is not the truth. For example, work is hard. Work is hard. Is that a truth? Yes, it's a truth. Work, it might be easy. Is that truth? That's a truth. If you are very aligned with what drives you, what's your ambition, you know, your vision, the work might be very, very easy. But at the same time, the work is hard. They both are the truth. Now, what might be true to you is that the work is fun. That's a perception. It's for you, might be funny, but might not be the case. Or it could be painful. So if you're doing some part of your job with your work, which is hard, of course that's going to make you feel painful. But if you do easy work because of some of the circumstances or the type of the job you're doing, it might be very fun. Now, how is this connected to those decisions which are rushed? Rash decisions usually have only one side of the truth. So here is the most important part of the first and most important moment of this video. The decisions behind those mistakes which you repeat very often are the decisions which are very rushed, because you are not patient enough to look at the other side of the truth so you can define what is true for that decision. You are very rushed. The key is that when you are aware of the both sides of the truth, then you can become fast at making those decisions. As long as you don't have the both sides of the truth, you're going to focus on what's true for yourself. And you're going to think that you're not making any biased decisions. What you're actually doing is you're squeezing this true to you and you're making an assumption. You don't have time to go backward and you prefer to move forward instead of a step backward. Sometimes is 10 steps forward to find assumption, to see what part of the truth is missing. Fill that gap. Figure it out for yourself what is true, because in time it changes, and happily so, true for yourself should change in time, because the more wisdom, the more experience you become, the more you know about the truth, which is on the surface or which is very hidden, and you are better at aligning it with what is true to yourself, okay? So then you can be very fast at making those decisions. But as long as you don't have the both sides of the truth, you're going to make rash decisions, which are going to lead to those situations when you make the same mistake again and again. For example, you have a product that you want to sell, and somebody taught you a lot about ads and how important it is to make ads, and if you set them properly, you're going to sell so much of your product. That's a part of the truth. That's the truth which is on the surface. Now, the truth on the surface says that the more ads, the more leads you're going to have, the more buyers you're going to have, the more clients are going to buy from you. The hidden truth is that if you have something of a low quality to offer or doesn't bring value into it, then of course you can show it to the whole world. Nobody's gonna buy it. We're just going to buy those that don't need it, where they think they need it, but it's actually not what they need, and then they're going to be in trouble and lots of conflict. So you don't want to get there. So the truth is that it's a no. Like, no, it's not about the ads. And another truth is that's about ads. What is true is that you have to have something valuable to offer, and you have also to know how to say it, how to explain it, how to picture it in your prospect, in your customer imagination, in his future. If you don't have this, you have to show and you have to give some proofs of that value. And if you don't have these two truths together, this should be your true, not only the one side or the other. Because if you're going to focus only on one side only, like I have to bring something valuable. If you focus only on that, you're going to always constantly working years on making it more valuable without attempting to bring it to the market so you can have a feedback, so then you can figure out how should I modify my offer so it can bring more value to those to which I think it should bring more value. So for that, you have to know, is it something valuable or not? How do you know that? You offer it. So that's one example. We can pick up hundreds of examples. So if you find yourself going through the same lesson, through the same pain, there is one part of the truth and it's missing the other. Now, the situations might be very different, but the principles is always the same. A formula, how do you want to solve it, it might be different, but the principle is always the same. Have always both sides of the truth before you make your own truth about what is true. So then your true, what is true for yourself, can help you to make better decisions. And the better decisions you're going to make, the less rash decisions you're going to make. So when you find yourself that you are pushed from within or from the outside to make the decision in the fastest way possible, perhaps you have only one side of the truth, you're missing the other, and you think you're already the master of making the decision, but actually you are simply rushed. Stop from doing that, start making better decisions, make them more often, so then you can make faster, multiple, better decisions. And that's how you get out of making multiple, similar, same mistakes, which are going to cost you even more every single time you're going to repeat it. So take care, use this frame, stop making the same mistake again and again, do more mistakes, accomplish more, take care of your mindset so your mindset can take care of you. Don't forget to subscribe my channel, share it if you find it very useful so you can come back to it, support my mission on Explore Yourself MBA Mindset Business Academy. See you in the next video. Bye bye.